There's a painful truth many men discover too late, and by the time they finally understand it, the damage is already done. A man can sacrifice his comfort, delay his dreams, work exhausting hours, empty his savings, build a woman from nothing, pay her school fees, help her start a business, stand beside her when nobody else believed in her, only to wake up one day and realize she has emotionally detached from him, or worse, replaced him. Not because he abused her, not because he abandoned her, not because he failed to provide, but because somewhere along the line, he believed that loyalty could be purchased through sacrifice alone. And this is where many good men destroy themselves, because society raised many men to believe that if you love hard enough, give enough, protect enough, provide enough, and remain patient enough, a woman will naturally become loyal in return. But reality doesn't always work that way. Provision can create comfort, can create dependency, can create opportunities, but it does not automatically create loyalty, respect, emotional discipline, or genuine desire. And many men are silently suffering because nobody warned them about this truth early enough. There are men right now carrying emotional scars they never speak about. Men who invested years into women who walked away the moment they became successful. Men who paid tuition fees only to watch another man enjoy the finished product. Men who built women emotionally and financially only to later hear phrases like, "I need to find myself. You deserve better. I've changed. I'm no longer happy." And the dangerous part is not just the betrayal itself. It's the confusion that follows after. Because the man starts replaying everything in his head. I did everything right. I sacrificed for her. I stayed loyal. I supported her dreams. So how did this happen? What hurts many men is not even losing the relationship. It's realizing that their sacrifices did not protect them from abandonment. And this conversation is important because too many men are entering relationships emotionally unprepared. Many men are taught how to provide, but not how to protect themselves emotionally. They know how to build, but not how to set boundaries. They know how to sacrifice, but not how to recognize when they are over-investing into someone who has not truly earned that level of trust. And this is why some men end up becoming emotionally broken after betrayal, because they attached their entire identity to being needed. The moment the woman no longer needs them financially, emotionally, or socially, the relationship begins to shift. Now listen carefully. This does not mean all women are disloyal. And it does not mean a man should never help the woman he loves. That's not the message. The message is this: never invest beyond what you can emotionally afford to lose. Because some men are not investing from wisdom. They are investing from fear. Fear of losing the woman. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if they stop providing constantly, the love will disappear. So they overcompensate. They become walking rescue missions. Every problem becomes theirs to solve. Every financial burden becomes theirs to carry. Every emotional instability becomes theirs to fix. And slowly, the relationship stops being love and becomes unpaid labor mixed with emotional dependency. One of the biggest mistakes a man can make is trying to earn loyalty through endless sacrifice. Because genuine loyalty reveals itself through character, not convenience. A woman's true nature is not only revealed when life is difficult. Sometimes it's revealed when life becomes easier because of your help. Pay attention to that carefully. Some people appreciate support. Others simply consume it. There are women who will remember the man who helped them rise and remain solid beside him through every season. But there are also women who will use a man as a stepping stone to access a better lifestyle, higher status, or new opportunities. And many men fail to recognize the difference early because they confuse attention with appreciation. Just because someone enjoys your provision does not mean they value you deeply. Some people love what you do for them more than they actually love you. That's why a man must never build a relationship only on giving. If your entire value in the relationship comes from solving problems, paying bills, rescuing situations, and carrying responsibilities, what happens when someone else appears with more money, more excitement, or more status? You become replaceable. And this is why emotional discipline matters. A high-value man must learn the difference between helping and over-sacrificing. Helping from strength is healthy. Destroying yourself to maintain love is dangerous. Some men drain their savings trying to impress women who never truly respected them in the first place. Some men abandon their goals, family, purpose, and mental peace trying to prove they are good enough. But the painful reality is this: you cannot buy genuine loyalty. You can rent attention. You can attract convenience. You can temporarily create attachment. But loyalty rooted in character cannot be forced through provision alone. And the saddest part? Many betrayed men ignore the warning signs early. They see the entitlement. They notice the lack of appreciation. They recognize the emotional inconsistency. But because they are deeply invested already, they keep hoping things will change. They continue pouring into someone who only shows up when benefits are available. And eventually, resentment begins growing silently inside the man. He feels used, drained, emotionally exhausted, yet he keeps giving because he believes stopping would mean failure. This is why men must understand something critical. A relationship should never become a rehabilitation center where one person constantly sacrifices while the other only receives. Healthy love requires reciprocity, not perfection, not equal income, not constant agreement, but mutual effort, mutual respect, mutual investment. A man should never feel like he must purchase emotional security through endless provision. Because when a relationship is built only on what you provide, you eventually become valued more for utility than humanity. And many men don't realize this until betrayal finally forces them to wake up. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel right now. This channel is for men who are tired of learning life lessons the hard way. We talk about relationships, masculine discipline, emotional intelligence, self-respect, and the truths many people avoid discussing openly. And if you've ever experienced betrayal after sacrificing for someone, drop your experience in the comments. Not for pity, but because your story might help another man recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is learn before life forces him to. Now imagine this. A man spends years helping a woman build her life. He supports her financially, encourages her emotionally, protects her during hard times, believes in her future. But during those same years, he slowly neglects himself. He stops pursuing his own growth, stops protecting his emotional boundaries, stops evaluating whether the relationship is truly healthy. And without realizing it, he becomes emotionally dependent on being needed. That's where the danger begins. Because once your identity becomes attached to saving someone, you stop seeing reality clearly. And many high-value men fall into this trap because they mistake sacrifice for security. But sacrifice without wisdom can become self-destruction. A man should be generous, but he should also be observant. Because loyalty is not proven by what someone accepts from you. It is proven by how they treat you when they no longer need your help. That is where true character reveals itself. And unfortunately, some men discover this truth after investing years they can never get back. The most dangerous betrayal is not always the one that happens suddenly. Sometimes betrayal happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. It begins the moment a man starts ignoring his own value while trying to increase someone else's. And many high-value men never notice the shift until the relationship has already emotionally collapsed. Because at first, everything feels worth it. The sacrifices feel meaningful. The financial support feels noble. The emotional labor feels necessary. He tells himself, "She's struggling right now. She just needs support. We're building together. One day she'll appreciate everything I did for her." And sometimes, she genuinely does appreciate it. But sometimes, she simply adapts to receiving. That's the part many men fail to understand. Human beings naturally adjust to comfort. What once looked like sacrifice eventually becomes expectation. The man who once looked extraordinary for paying bills, solving problems, and carrying responsibilities slowly becomes normal in her eyes. And if the relationship lacks deeper emotional respect, admiration, and genuine attachment, the provision alone eventually loses emotional power. This is why some men are shocked when betrayal happens after years of sacrifice, because they believed consistency automatically guaranteed loyalty. But loyalty is not maintained by money alone. A woman can appreciate your help and still lack emotional discipline. She can admire your work ethic and still crave validation elsewhere. She can benefit from your stability and still emotionally disconnect over time. And this is why men must stop building relationships entirely around provision. Because when a man's only role becomes solving problems, he unknowingly trains himself to become useful, but not necessarily valued. There's a difference. A man should absolutely provide if he chooses to, but provision should be an extension of wisdom, not desperation. Some men provide because they are grounded, disciplined, and purposeful. Others provide because they are terrified of losing the woman. That fear changes everything, because once fear enters a relationship, boundaries begin disappearing. The man starts tolerating disrespect he would normally reject. He ignores suspicious behavior. He excuses emotional manipulation. He accepts emotional inconsistency because he has already invested too much to walk away comfortably. And that's how emotional traps begin. A man who once felt powerful slowly becomes psychologically dependent on keeping the relationship alive at all costs. Even when the relationship is draining him mentally. Even when appreciation disappears. Even when he notices he's giving far more than he's receiving. And this is one of the hardest truths many men must eventually accept. Some people are loyal to the benefits, not the person. As long as the comfort exists, they stay emotionally attached. But once emotions change, opportunities expand, or another option appears, their commitment suddenly weakens. That's why men must stop measuring relationship security only by how much they provide. Because a woman can smile beside you while emotionally preparing to leave. Painful truth, but a necessary one. And this is exactly why self-respect matters more than blind sacrifice. A wise man does not stop being generous. He simply becomes more intentional. He watches patterns carefully. He observes character over time. He pays attention to consistency, gratitude, accountability, and emotional maturity. Because loyalty is revealed in behavior, not promises. Anyone can speak beautifully during comfortable seasons. Real character appears during temptation, conflict, growth, and opportunity. That's when you discover whether someone truly values you or merely values access to what you provide. And many broken men today are not destroyed because they loved. They are destroyed because they abandoned themselves while loving someone else. They stopped prioritizing their own future, stopped protecting their emotional peace, stopped maintaining standards. Everything became centered around keeping the relationship alive. But healthy love should never require self-erasure. A man should not have to lose himself in order to keep someone beside him. That is not love. That is emotional survival. And unfortunately, society often praises men for self-destructive sacrifice. People tell men, real men provide. Real men endure. Real men never give up. But nobody teaches men how to recognize when they are being emotionally exploited. Nobody teaches men that generosity without boundaries attracts users. Nobody teaches men that some relationships become one-sided investments disguised as love. And this is why emotional intelligence is critical for men. Not bitterness, not hatred, not revenge. Wisdom, because a bitter man destroys himself emotionally after betrayal. But a wise man learns from it. He becomes sharper, more observant, more disciplined. He stops leading with desperation and starts leading with discernment. And this is important. The goal is not to become cold-hearted. The goal is to stop attaching your worth to how much you can sacrifice for others. Because your value as a man is deeper than your wallet. You are not only useful when paying bills. You are not only important when solving problems. You are not only lovable when carrying everyone's burdens. A strong man must build a life where his identity remains stable even without external validation. That means maintaining purpose outside relationships, maintaining goals, maintaining discipline, maintaining emotional control. Because when a man's entire emotional world revolves around one woman, betrayal becomes psychologically devastating. But when a man has purpose, structure, standards, and self-respect, he can survive disappointment without collapsing completely. And that's the lesson many men learn too late. Never build your entire identity around being needed, because people's needs change, emotions change, circumstances change, relationships change, but your principles must remain stable regardless. And one of the smartest things a man can do is invest in women with wisdom instead of emotional blindness. Support her, but watch her character. Help her, but maintain boundaries. Build together, but never destroy yourself trying to prove your worth. Because true love should not require constant self-sacrifice just to feel secure. A healthy relationship should feel reciprocal, not transactional, not manipulative, not emotionally exhausting. And if a woman only values you when resources are flowing, that relationship is standing on unstable ground. Because the moment conditions change, so can her loyalty. If you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel and become part of this growing community of men focused on wisdom, self-respect, discipline, and emotional awareness. This channel isn't about attacking women. It's about helping men stop losing themselves in relationships that were never balanced from the beginning. And if this message opened your eyes in any way, leave a comment below. What's one lesson relationships have taught you about loyalty? Some of the deepest wisdom comes from shared experience. Now here's the final truth many men need to hear. Being a provider is honorable. There is nothing weak about supporting the people you love. But provision should come from strength, not fear of abandonment. A man should never feel forced to buy peace, buy loyalty, or buy emotional security. Because when loyalty is genuine, it remains stable even when life becomes difficult. And when betrayal eventually reveals someone's true character, do not let it destroy your future. Let it educate you, because pain can either make a man bitter or make him wiser. The choice is always his. If this video gave you clarity, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with another man who needs to hear it. Sometimes one conversation can save years of emotional damage. Keep building yourself. Keep protecting your peace. And never forget this. A man's value is not measured only by what he provides, but by the standards he refuses to abandon.